the one thing I guess I'll start with saying is I don't think the destination when you're looking at it is that much of a surprise. Just knowing the inner workings of the Longo family, uh, his wife Tanya Longo is from Durand, Wisconsin, which is only 2.5, 3 hours outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So I think that's probably the connection to why he goes from an OC at one school to an OC at another school. But I think and this is no inside information, but I think the dynamic between Mac Brown and Phil Longo kind of felt just really off this entire year, where without any context, if you just listen to Mac Brown after games or during the week when talking about the offense and the defense, you would think the defense was the one that was in the top 25 and the offense was the one in the 110s or the 120s, where there was always something to nitpick about the offense and really propping up the defense. Now you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes and why Mac Brown kind of approached it that way. But yeah, it feels like now that you're looking back at it with perspective that Phil Longo's offense was a bit underappreciated during the Mac Brown 2.0 tenure, where for as much as people can complain about certain things that he did inside the red zone, the reason why this team isn't where they want to be right now isn't because of the offense. And in fact, like the strength of this team under Mac Brown 2.0 has been the quarterback, Sam Howell, Drake Maye. Phil Longo has coached them both.
And I think Taylor hit it right on the nose, that from all that I could see, both in terms of sideline interaction and in terms of press conference stuff, that situation in terms of head coach and offensive coordinator had soured. And I think it was a situation where, similar to what happened toward the end with Jay Bateman last year, basically it was probably not going to work for those two there was going to have to be a mutual parting, basically, for them to move on. And so I'm not surprised at all. And I think this has been in the works for probably longer than 3 weeks, probably longer than that. And one other thing that I'm going to add is, I think a factor here is that North Carolina's defensive struggles and the overall lack of toughness inside the football facility is noted and noticed. And I think, whether justly or unjustly, Phil Longo and the approach that they've taken on the offensive side in particular have received some of the blame for that internally. And so I think just speculating that's a factor there. So I do wonder. I mean, Tommy, you and I talked the last game, the last post game with Buck, that the offense really looked completely different after that Wake Forest game. And I start to wonder, like, how much was this already in the works? Even, this sort of thing, that things had already, like, okay, things are going to separate, and that impacted preparation and so on the last few weeks. That's just me speculating, and I don't know if that's irresponsible at this stage or not. I think, overall, Phil Longo deserves a lot of credit for what he did in terms of helping turn this program around, and bringing it a lot of attention for putting up major offensive numbers. And he was a big factor in recruiting some really good quarterbacks onto campus. So I think that needs to be said as he moves on to Wisconsin, and he deserves a lot of that credit.
Yeah, and Jason was kind of talking about the offense and the defense kind of needing more of that, like, symbiotic type relationship, and that got me thinking when I first heard him say that on, I think it was the Day After podcast. And you look at every year Longo's been a offensive coordinator at the Power 5 level, Ole Miss and Carolina, and the defensive the total defense, it's been 111th, 115th, 105, 68 was kind of an anomaly with Jay Bateman, 97th, 117, and then his offensive ratings have been 21, 9, 12, 5, 12, 15. So the offense has been really, really good. But the defense, it's almost like the defense can't figure out what it's doing. And when Jason does talk about that, you kind of have to wonder how much of that does play into the fact that Carolina can't field a good defense.
Yeah, and I'll be frank. Both of the last two defensive staffs have felt that they've not gotten enough support from the offense to help them get better in practice. And I suspect that it's one thing when Jay Bateman, who's a young coordinator, and that staff are asking for things in practice, and then ultimately, on the way out saying, look, I mean, we've got to be able to do this if we're going to have a good defense. It's another thing if Gene Chizik comes in and agrees, given his experience. And I suspect that that's a factor here.